Planning to work in the UK? Let me guide you through the process of applying for a UK work visa by yourself without stress. Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. I'm Rosie, and on this channel I talk about YouTube blogging, online business and branding, and a little bit of Java content here and there. In this video, I want to show you how you can make your UK work visa application yourself. To get started, I would recommend going to the UK government website itself. There you can find the link to the work visa application. We're going to gov.uk and searching work visa. So we can select this one. So this is the one for the skilled worker visa. I will run you through the everything you need quickly to know about the skilled worker visa and the application process. Let's take it from the top. The skilled worker visa allows you to come and stay in the UK and work with an approved employer. This visa was formerly called Tier 2 General Work Visa. It's now skilled worker visa. And for you to be eligible for this visa, you need to have an employer who is approved by the Home Office. That's the person who will be employing you. And that employer needs to give you a certificate of sponsorship, also called COS. And this has to contain all the information about the role you are coming to take up in the UK. This job role also has to be on the list of eligible occupations. This is also on this gov.uk website if you want to find it. You also need to be paid a minimum salary. This also depends on what type of work and also the dates you have on your COS. For your work visa application, you need to have a confirmed job offer and a COS before you can apply for a visa, because without this COS in particular, you cannot apply for a visa, because all that is contained in the COS are what you will fill in while you're applying for a visa. So without a COS, there is nothing to fill in there. Also, you may need to show proof of English, that you can either write the IELTS exam, you can do your degree conversion. There are different ways you can prove your English proficiency. And of course, if it's not the skilled worker visa you're eligible for, you can check for other types of visa here. Then with the skilled worker visa, you are able to stay in the UK for about 5 years, and then you can extend this. Usually the contract is 5 years. Some companies may give you less than 5 years, but you can still extend it even if they give you like 3 years. So at the end of the 5 years, you can still extend or go ahead and apply for your independent leave to remain, which is also called ILR. Keep in mind that even if you come in to the UK with the job, for instance, if in the first year of coming into the UK you change jobs, you change employer, or maybe the visa you have has expired, you can always change, update, or extend your visa. All these things can be done still on this same portal. You can always extend your visa as many times as possible. You can always update if you change employers, if you change job or different circumstances. There is room to always extend and update. You can still get your ILR after the 5 years. With ILR, you can start getting public funds. You can stay as long as you want. You can travel out and stay as long as you want outside. You can work, you can study, you can do almost anything you want to do, which are usually limited when you are under the skilled worker visa. To apply for the visa, you need to do that online. You can do that from outside the UK, or if you are within the UK. And if you are within the UK, it can be maybe because you're trying to update your visa, you're trying to extend, or maybe you changed employer or you changed job. Either of these can count. One of the good things with the skilled worker visa is most of the jobs will allow you to come with your partner and your children. Most of them, though there are some that stopped bringing in partners and children recently, but most of the other ones will enable you bring in your partner and the children, which are also called dependents. Once you've gotten your COS, you can always apply for your visa up to 3 months before the day you're expected to start work in the UK. So all these details are in the COS form they will give to you. That is why it's important you have your COS before you start your visa application. During your visa application, you will need to provide your passport, which is your proof of identity, and some other documents that are needed. I will get to show you all of these. I also have a video where I talked about the documents checklist you will need for your UK work visa. I will leave that in the description in case you want to check that out. If you've applied for a visa online, done your biometrics, submitted all that is required, you can get the decision on your visa within 3 weeks if you're outside the UK, or 8 weeks if you're inside the UK. Sometimes it takes more than this, sometimes it takes less than this. Whichever one, they will always keep in touch with you, and you can always pay for what we call express. Instead of waiting for the normal 3 weeks to get your visa, you can pay for it to come out within 24 hours, within 5 days, shorter period, you can always pay for this, and towards the time you book for biometrics, you'll see the option for this. For the price of the work visa, if you're applying alone, you will pay for your work visa alone. If you're coming with your children and your partner, every single person will have to pay their own. So there are three charges to be paid. You are paying for the application fee, the visa application fee. You're paying for the healthcare, that's like insurance. But this depends on the job. Some healthcare, most of the healthcare jobs, in fact, do not need you to pay health insurance. But then the other ones like IT, construction, catering, they will require you to pay health insurance. So depending on the job, this particular charge may not be compulsory for you. And then thirdly, you need to have enough proof of funds to show that you're able to support yourself and your family when you come to the UK. But then this may not be compulsory if your employer ticks yes in the certificate of sponsorship to show that they will take up your maintenance for you and your dependents. Again, I talked about this in the video where I discussed the document checklist you need for your work visa. For what you can and you cannot do with this work visa, you can actually work in any of the eligible job, especially the one that employed you. You can study. Mostly this study is online because it will be hard for you to juggle both. You can also bring your dependents depending on the work type that you've got. You can also take on additional work. Some people work full-time and part-time. Some people combine two jobs they're running. It depends on your strength, how you can carry it. You can also travel in and out of the country. However, anytime you travel, you're not expected to stay beyond 6 months outside, like 6 months at a stretch. You must come back before it reaches 6 months of being out of the country. And you can also settle after your 5 years for independent leave to remain. You can apply for that, and if once you meet the requirements, you can get it. You can also do voluntary work while you are under the skilled worker visa. And this voluntary work has to be unpaid. It has to be under a registered charity, a voluntary organization, an associated fundraising body, a statutory body which is more like a government appointed body. And under the skilled worker visa, you cannot apply for public funds. This is this is one of the major things you'll be hearing everywhere you go as a skilled worker visa holder. You cannot apply for public funds. And once you are in the UK, anything you hear people talking about, maybe government is giving access to this, government is providing this or that, confirm very well if it's public funds or not, especially those who have children. There are certain things children get for free in the UK. Some are public funds, some are not. So before you register your kids for any of this, confirm they are not public funds. It's better you are safe than sorry, because at the time after the 5 years when you need your ILR, that is when all the things you've done and you thought you've gotten away with them, they would wait for you there. So best you avoid anything you know that will make you have issues when it is time to apply for your ILR. While you're on your skilled worker visa, you cannot change jobs or your employer unless you update your visa. That's why if you resign or you get sacked or whatever happens to your previous employer that gave you the first COS, before you switch to full time with another employer, you need to update your visa with their own COS for you to do that. However, you can work part time with another employer. Once your application online is successful and you've gotten your visa, they will give you a list of what you can and you cannot do in the letter they'll send to you. Let's go to the next page. So for your job has to meet the requirements for skilled worker visa. It has to be that you're working for a UK employer that has been approved by the Home Office. The Home Office is a government body. You also have to be paid at least the minimum salary for the type of work you're doing. The minimum salary is different for most of the work, so depending on what you're employed for, you have to be sure your employer is paying you the minimum salary. Also, your employer must make sure your job pays at least the minimum wage, and it's also following the UK rules for how many hours a week you work. Currently, the hours per week to be worked are 38 hours. This also depends on your employer. Some employers do more, but majority is around 38 hours margin. You also need to be sure of your job code. This occupation code will let you know if your work is eligible for a work visa application. You can also check this place to be able to figure out what job code yours is. You will find this in the COS paper. Once you've confirmed it on the COS paper, you can always match it to what you find here to be sure the job description matches what you'll be doing. All these things you will find here and in the COS form. You also need to be sure that you'll be paid the standard salary rate, which is like the minimum salary you're expected to get. If you also work in healthcare or education, their rates are different. You can always check here to know the salary rates for the healthcare or education jobs. Whoever is employing you needs to be an approved UK employer, and you can always confirm that here. And these people are called sponsors. You have to pay a little fee of about 574 to be able to secure a slot for you. And once they've gotten that slot, they fill in your details and then they issue you your certificate of sponsorship. If your job is as a care worker or a senior care worker, your employer must be registered with CQC, and this is the code. So you can always confirm this in your COS form. Once your employer has given you a COS, you will find a reference number on the COS, and that's what you will need for your visa application. Once they've given you your COS, you need to apply for a visa within 3 months. If not, the COS would expire. Next, when you can be paid less, this is just when your salary rate would not be up to what they had stated per year. In most cases, once your employer is approved and they give you a COS, majority of them, to stay in compliance with the home office, they already know all these things are necessary, and that's why before they offer you the COS, they are certain they fall under this category of people who are eligible to employ someone else. So don't stress your head too much about this part. So next, it's for those in healthcare. Those in healthcare, their salary should be at least £25,000, which is like most of what the employers are paying. And again, if your employer is an approved employer with the Home Office, they already know that these things are criteria to stay compliant, and you are sure what they will give you will be in line with what is required. So next, here they're letting you know the way you can prove your knowledge of English. You can either do that by writing the English test or converting your degree using ethics. This, if you click on this to show you how you can convert your degree, or you just go to the ethics website. Once you type this ethics, it's going to bring out the website. All you need is your degree certificate, your transcript, and a letter from your department. If this is too much for you, you can always take any of the English test, which is IELTS, UK VI IELTS, or you need to have an equivalent of the GCSE level 4 or 5. Any of these three options, you can use the documents to prove your English knowledge. This is one of the major things that make people's visa not to be approved. Countries that do not need this are these countries, but if you know your country is not here, go ahead and get something done about your English. So next, let's look at the cost of the visa. When you apply for the visa, you need to have enough money. The application fee is between 769 to 1751. This depends on your circumstances. And then the health insurance fee is about £1,035 per year. So this will be multiplied by the number of years the visa they gave you would be. So if for instance you got a visa of 5 years, you are paying 1035 times 5 years, because remember, this is per year, and you also need to have 1270 in your proof of fund or an equivalent of this in your country's currency. However, this will not apply to you if your employer indicates yes, that they will take up your maintenance. You may likely pay less if your job is on the immigration salary list. At the end of when you submit your form, you will see how much they will ask you to pay. So not everybody's money may be the same amount. This is a breakdown of how much you pay if you're coming from outside the UK or you're doing from inside the UK. And this is the number of years the visa would be. So you can see if you're spending up to 3 years, you're paying 769 per person from outside the UK. And if it's more than 3 years, this is what you're paying per person. This also goes for those who are within the UK. If your job is on the immigration salary list, this is what you're expected to pay. This is money to support yourself, but again, it's not necessary. If your employer ticks yes, they will take up your maintenance, but if not, you need to have either this or the equivalent in your country's currency. If you're coming with dependents, everybody needs to prove the same, not just you. But if your employer still ticked yes, the yes covers both you and your dependents. If not, they also need to show their own proof of funds. So you can see it, once your employer ticks yes that they will support you, this should not worry you at all. This you will find in your certificate of sponsorship form. Now for the documents you will need to apply for your visa, you will need your COS reference number, you will need your proof of English, you will need your passport, your job title and the salary, the job code, and the name of your employer and their sponsorship license number. All these things are in the certificate of sponsorship which your employer will give you for you to make your application. And then after these other compulsory documents, the other things you will need are your proof of funds, proof of relationship with your dependents, and also your tuberculosis test. This depends on the country you're applying from. You also need your police clearance. You also need your ATA certificate. This is for those in PhD level. If you're using ECTIS to prove your English, you will need the reference number for that. And your passport need to also have a vacant page for them to attach your visa once it is approved. You also need to translate your certificate if it is not in English. If you're coming from outside the UK and you're under any of these job category, you will need to prove that your criminal record is clean by providing a police clearance from your country. If you've lived in more than one country, you have to provide police clearance from the countries you've stayed in the last 10 years if you have stayed there in a total of 12 months. Once your documents are ready, you can now go ahead and start your application. But let me still show you other things in this instruction that will still help you. So if you're coming from outside the UK, you need to check the documents which you just finished looking at. You also need to have your biometrics done or use the UK immigration app to be able to scan your identity documents. Once you submitted your visa application, the next steps they will show you what to do. Once you want to start the application, if you click on this, and even if you start with only one page, you can always save it and come back to it later. It takes about 3 weeks for you to get the decision of your visa. That is, once you've submitted and you've gone for biometrics, it takes like 3 weeks for your visa to come out and it gets sent to you. If you want to pay for a faster decision, you can always do that. After you apply and you feel you want to cancel your application, you can do that, but then you can only get refunded if they've not started processing your application. But if they've started processing it, you cannot get refunded. However, they will still cancel it for you. Once your visa has been submitted, they will send you an email regarding the decision on your application. That is why you need to use a valid email so that if there's anything, if they even need more information from you, it's still the email they will send any correspondence to. So once you've submitted your application, keep an eye on your email for either the decision on your application or if there's need for more documents. Now, for your dependents, you need to be able to prove relationship with them. Every single child, every partner will have their own application done separately, and their visa would be the same date with yours, and all the details they need to submit their own application would be almost the same details you used in yours. To make your application very easy, once you, who is the first person applying, you can always get a family linking code, and this code will help link all your dependents' applications together, so that if any of them is submitting, the UK VI can always trace the application to yours. It makes it easier for them to check all the applications together. For the dependents, if you're coming as a care worker or senior care worker, as at 11th of March 2024, no one under the care worker or senior care worker visa can bring in their dependents, but before then it was very much allowed. But if your partner is eligible to come with you under your skilled worker visa, they need to be able to prove that you're married and that you've been living together. If you're not living together, you need to prove that you've been communicating regularly, you've been supporting each other financially, and if there are any children you both have together, you've been caring for the children together, and you've also been spending time together as a couple, either by going to holidays together or attending any events together. In this case, pictures, marriage certificates, and financial documents are very good proof you can use for your partner's supporting documents. As for the children, you can always have their birth certificate and any other thing that connects them with you, like pictures too, and also financial statements that shows that you have been taking care of them. If your employer did not take maintenance for you in your COS and you need to prove your own funds, you need for your partner, you need to have £285 for your partner and 315 for one child and 200 for any other additional children after that. This is what you'll be needing for your proof of fund, and for you in particular, you need to have 1,270 available to support yourself. And this money, as usual, needs to have been in your account in the last 31 days. Now, once you're applying from outside the UK, everybody needs to apply separately. That's your dependents. There is a link for the partner, and there's a separate link for the children. And remember, you can always have a family linking code to make it easier for the UK VI officers to be able to look into the applications altogether. They also need to be able to prove their identity by going for biometrics or using the UK immigration app to do that. Their own decision also takes 3 weeks. You can always pay for faster decision if you want. If you're within the UK and you change your visa or you extend or you change employer or things like that, your dependents do not need to also do the same. Their current visa would still hold valid. If you're within the UK and you have a child, you also need to apply for your child's visa and put them under you as your dependent. This is quite important, as everything that relates to you also relates to them, even though they were born in the UK. You can always extend your visa if you're still within the UK, if you've changed job or you want to update something or you changed employer, you can always extend your visa or switch it. Your dependents do not need to extend their own visa. Their current visa is still valid even after you've extended yours. If you're extending your visa from within the UK, it takes about 8 weeks to get your new visa. However, you can always pay for faster decision and this will come to you quicker than 8 weeks. This is just for those who have gotten their COS before the 4th of April 2024, because that was when the threshold for salary was increased. After then, but I believe you who is just applying now, definitely your COS did not come before 4th of April, so this does not relate to you. If you want to change your job or your employer, you can always update your visa by coming to the portal and also going through that to apply. You need to also pay a fee. You need to also submit the required documents. If you are taking up a job that is more than 20 hours, 20 hours is part-time. So anything more than 20 hours, you want to take 2 full-time jobs, you have to update that on your visa. People do that, but you have to update that on your visa that you're having 2 full-time jobs. Also, the second full-time job, you need to have a COS from them. I need to have this updated on your current visa. If you're on a different visa like student visa and you want to switch to the skilled worker visa while in the UK, you can always apply to switch to the visa. If you have dependents, you can do that with them. You need to meet the eligibility criteria for you to be able to switch. But then not everybody is allowed to switch. If you're a visitor, you cannot really switch. You have to go back to your country and apply. Even if you've gotten a job while you came visiting, you have to go back to your country and make the application from the start. A short-term student visa cannot switch, someone on a parent of a child visa, and a few others. If you want to switch and you're in any of this category, you have to go back to your country and do that and come back. Lastly, if you want to take on additional job, for instance, you are working overtime in where you are currently sponsored, you don't have to do that because you can work as much as you want. You can also work part-time in another job or for your own business as long as you are still doing the job you are being sponsored for. And the work must be in the eligible occupation code. This code, you can always check them here. You will find out the list of jobs that you can do freely while you are being sponsored. You can also do voluntary work. This has to be unpaid. If you want to do more than 20 hours work, you need to update your visa. You need to get a new COS from the second employer, and you need to also have a letter explaining why you want to change your current permission to stay. Probably because you don't have so much money to cover your bills and you want to juggle the two jobs. With all the instructions gone, let us now start the application itself. For this application, I will take it that you are applying from outside the UK, then we'll go ahead and click start now.
In order not to make this video too long, I will continue the live visa application in another video which I will link in the description below. Do well to check it out as it has got the full step-by-step process on how you can apply for your online work visa from start to finish.